All right, so for this, let's take a look at and really quickly draw our typical version of a toothbrush. And so that's kind of the previous example, so I want to run with the same example. Always keep in mind that we're constantly working shape to shape. So for this, I want to, let's draw here. Let's draw at the bottom. So this is just strictly an analysis, basically, of the shapes that we're looking at. So like in this case, we're looking at the arm of the toothbrush and then the bristles. And let's just look at this as a super simple design. And even if we thought about drawing this like in a 3/4 angle, we can quickly just work out some of the shape proportions that we translate. It's really essential to do the typical version, just so you know and are aware of the parts and pieces and elements that you're working with. And so in this case, we just want to keep this pretty loose, pretty rapid. One thing that's always key with these drawings is that we're not aiming for flawless perfection or singular, just absolutely masterful lines. If it happens, that's great, but invariably that's not the purpose or the goal. So I'm gonna draw most of this flat, maybe break out one, and then just put like some linear marks in there to indicate that that's the bristle. And then we'll do pretty much the same for this one. We'll draw a sort of shape for that, give a nice little, so I want to aim to, so here to here, I want to aim to, oh actually I should just draw past. And then same for this, just go ahead and draw past. Do like the base shape for where those bristles would be. And then a similar thing, I just want to, indicate the shape on this really quick. Boop. And I want to break this shape silhouette to make it have this sort of bristly shape. And I think I could probably get away with doing something like this, and then indicating a couple like little bristle bits, and then just drop a couple lines in there. It'll look toothbrush like. Booyah! Quick and easy. In any of these drawings, we're always considering our line weights, so we always want to come back in and give a little weight to the sort of silhouette as a whole. Find those opportunities where we can add a little bit of line weight to get contrast and readability. That is super, super important. And it's usually pretty useful to do it on the sort of silhouette. So same thing on this one. We'd want to come back in, sort of hit the silhouette for the most part on that, and give it a little bit more clarity. So we're always again trying to practice as much as we possibly can. Drawing with our arm, you see that sometimes there's like a little flick to hit the drawing on that. So once we've kind of redrawn our basic one, we can start thinking about designing, because right now we're not really designing anything. We're just looking at the typical proportions. So if you've have any experience in shape design and you've collected reference, because the reference pictures that you use will invariably help you to start thinking about, like if this was from a long period ago, like what would these proportions look like? So let's just say really quickly, we could scribble some shapes in. And so there were a couple reference pictures that I noticed where you had a really long bristle part, and then there was like an arm part, and then there was like a little bit of a wideness to the body of it, like here. right? So we had something that was kind of like that, but the bristle part was really long. And I looked at some of the research, and the research said that that some of them had these hog bristles. So I just want to look at, like, let's explore the shape of, something like that, right? And so some of this is definitely just playing with shape, and maybe instead of it being, something like that, let's think of it in terms of, maybe, and just for the sake of, let's say that this had because I was looking up some reference from Africa and then some other stuff. So let's say that that they forged this maybe out of some metal, because I saw some early, you know, um, African things where they had some metallic sort of busts and stuff. So let's say there's some lines that wrap around there. Maybe there's a couple lines that wrap around there to give it a sort of fanciful royal treatment. And let's play with the proportion. Maybe it thins out there. And then maybe we make that part kind of thin, and we'll just make the bristles sort of displaced a little bit, but we'll give it a little bit of angle to that. So let's look at that as another shape we can explore. And I saw a bunch of sculptures, and the sculptures, they had a lot of rings to them. It was pretty chunky. So I want to explore the idea that there's rings at the bottom. Maybe you can grab it in the middle there, and then there's like a similar sort of ring type of pattern there. And I saw one where they had it wasn't like a toothbrush, but it was like some sort of chewing stick. So maybe we could do like a chewing stick kind of version of like a toothbrush, and we can explore that as an option. Like they fitted inside this metal, this sort of metal holder. So that's not the best angle. Let's try to do that in a sort of angle where we get a little bit of perspective to it. So let's do something like that. Get the mass on that, and then we'll do a little bit of a wrap around, and then we'll kind of draw really quickly a lot of the sort of layering of like a chewing kind of stick. So that's like another version of something that could be, toothbrush like. And so we're just playing with shapes. So let's say that there's a blend of the two ideas, or those multiple ideas, and that we do a part of the chewing stick. But let's say that instead we have the chewing stick sort of idea kind of facing upward, and that the way it's held in, that it has like maybe a couple little like overlapping metal things to keep it sort of anchored into this, let's say, wooden sort of base. And we'll try to give it some of the proportion of that type of thing. But I think making it feel kind of stubby is a nice sort of shape mechanic too, that you see with especially some more fanciful type of design and patterns. And maybe we'll put like some linear, like little metal. I like that metal ring thing so much, because I saw that in a lot of the sculptures and stuff. So I just wanted to play with that. So this is all just exploration stuff, and we're just thinking about borrowing from reference pictures. So when I come back in here and I start plussing these, and then really when you just say plussing it just means you're going to go in there and do some extra added details. One thing I saw and I recalled is that there were some reliefs that were on the inside of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it's almost a typical version, but I'm going to still kind of take the idea of that this, that's the toothbrush proportion. This is the outer part, and these bristles just they do kind of stand up, and that this is like the proportion of that part that sits there, and that there is a sort of really cool decorative part that's sort of inlaid in here, and that maybe we'll play with the sort of decoration on there. Let's try to make it look like there's a division of half in there, and we'll add in like, some of the patterns that we see in, some of those really cool like repeating African sort of pattern type things. And so I think that would be that's kind of a nice finessing kind of element. Let's see if we can break the pattern of this up a little bit more. Let's do something that's kind of like that and something that's sort of like that. So it has like these little, would have like those little graphic design bits there, similar to, I think that's like a Victorian toothbrush. And then we'll just add like some quick ellipses to indicate that there's that sort of bristle texture. And it's just a couple rows. It's not long like the typical toothbrush. And then again, we'll just try to indicate these as much as possible. There's probably a little bit of depth here to where it insets inside of here, so we'll just hit that with a couple lines, some linear marks to, aid in a little bit definition, and we'll just drop some lines in here to indicate the idea that, oh, these are some heavy, type bristles. And then maybe we'll just put a little bit of a pattern break here to make it look like maybe there was some added sculpted elements in. Maybe we could put like some sculpted elements on the side too, to give it a little bit more of that sort of the patterns that you will see in a lot of like African sculpted pieces. So we'll just kind of drop those in to indicate that really quick. And just for the purpose of giving this a little more dimension, we'll hit a little bit of contrast on maybe making these bristle areas a little darker. And we'll also make this side plane have a little bit more value to it. So it turns form in space. And maybe we'll just drop a sort of a shape around this just to add some visual interest. Just adds that little nice graphic, a little bit of graphic to it. Boom, 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 boom. And so being able to just to draw without worrying about the perfection part of things can be kind of helpful. And I'll just indicate that that's a top plane. We'll just indicate that maybe there's like a nice sort of reflecting or brighter light that hits that edge. Booyah! So all these are going to be, they're pretty much executed in the same manner. That you're constantly just thinking about the overall sort of shape silhouette, and then after you work out the shape silhouette, then you want to go in there and just add those added details. So I'll do this one up here, and I'll probably borrow some of those elements still to help give that a little bit more clarity in the definition. Again, keeping in mind that I definitely want to, try to reference some of the elements of some of these more traditional sculptures or pieces. So we'll make this part feel like it's just a nice, straight linear thing. And again, I like that idea of, and maybe I'll carry it through here. And just for the sake of, how about we do one of those like sort of faces in there. Let's say that there's like a little face, like a relief of some sort. And then maybe there's like a little mouth, and then we'll just kind of make it look like that was a sort of sculpted bit in there. We'll make this, we'll try to add a little bit of a wood-like texture on that part too. And then this is definitely made out of some sort of wood-like material, because I saw a couple of examples of like that chewing stick, and that it sort of has a bit of a fray up at the top where you would do a lot of the chomping, I suppose. So we'll just add a little bit of thickness on those. And then this lower part, we'll try to, maybe I'll make a little bit of a base on there, so you can make it, you can stand it up. So we'll just kind of work that ellipse, and then we'll come in here, and we'll just add the little, like the little rings. So we'll just draw like little ripples, and we'll just wrap really quick to make it look like that's made out of some sort of a heavy metal. And then oh, what I forgot, I wanted to add those sort of patterns. Oh, maybe put on the bottom. On the bottom, we get those cool little geometric forms, because that seems to be a common theme in a lot of African cultural pieces. So, boom, that's another quick example. Again, we want to come in with our line weights and give that a little bit of emphasis, so it doesn't feel flat. And we're just trying to, I'm gonna hit the overlap on that, so that we get a little bit more separation there. I don't really need it there, so I'll just leave that as is. I could maybe do some there, but this one is the thicker silhouette. I don't really want to do any overlaps with this, and so we'll just move through these lines to give this, play with the idea of some of these designs real quick, and hit it with a little bit of value, and then high five ourselves. So the value is always useful, helpful. You can use it for local value, because the local value of that would be relatively dark. I would probably make this part local value relatively dark, and then we'll add like a little bit of like faux shading of bits and pieces. We'll wrap around the volume of this to make that look somewhat dimensional. Boom. And then just hit it with our darker value for the other parts, just so we get that contrast. So let's make this interior part just feel darker, and then we'll just hit a couple of the bits on this to give that a little bit more value, form, maybe underside of there, maybe on the inset there. Boom, boom, boom. Hit that with a little bit of light. Maybe a little bit of light there. And the most important part about these type of things and these type of drawings is that you're exploring. Don't feel like you have to be locked into anything perfect or anything in particular. So those are two quick variations, two quick versions of something that could be a combination of a couple different concepts, of the combination of the handle, the bristle, and then trying to figure out how to flip that in different ways. Even this one, which would be even more of a combination, and maybe that would be worth doing a version of to get a vision on that. I can do it really fast, so I'm gonna scribble this one. This one I'm gonna do so super fast, so this doesn't get too long. But again, the ideation though is to go keep stacking and exploring. And so there's a potential that I would try to use that same sort of element here that I would use there. So I'm just gonna make some really quick sort of wraps, and then maybe somehow it has like a bit of the sort of transition from the metallic part into something. Let's say that would be maybe like a carved ivory, and then with that carved ivory, that maybe there is still that sort of metallic element that you can use to clamp down the chewing stick part. And so you would kind of rub this up against your teeth. So this would be our side plane. That would have a sort of spherical effect to the way it sits there. Maybe we'll, again, I like these geometric shapes, so I'm gonna add these back in as if that was sort of carved in. And then maybe just for the sake of design, we could add some of the same sort of motifs that would wrap around there. That would kind of give a nice visual sort of play. And always going back, I usually like to hit the silhouette, and then sometimes I'll go back and determine whether or not I need to get line weight for the wraparounds, but we'll hit the silhouette on this. Boom. Let's cut it on that to give that a little more emphasis. This too. Draw around there, give that, wrap around there to give that some emphasis. Hit some of the thickness on that. Thickness on that. Boom, maybe just for the sake of, I'll just add a little hatch in there to just hatch it up. And then we'll just I'm just gonna hit this with value, a really heavy value, really quick to give some separation really fast. Boom, 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 boom. So these are somewhat stress-free. They're not designed for you to be stressed out trying to do the best drawings you've ever done in your entire life. That the broader thing is to do exploration, and at this point in time, there's no quote unquote bad design. Like, you're just exploring. So, make crazy decisions. This is not, this has to be fabricated. These are just, taking the influences from your references for sure, and recognizing that those are starting points, but you have all the freedom to think about how you can put stuff together. So taking the sort of metallic wrapping bits, taking the idea of the bristles and making it kind of have a bristles that come out, borrowing from this idea of the chewing stick and have the chewing stick up, but then make it to where it sits inside of something. And I think I borrowed this from the sculpture faces, and then the other parts I just wanted to do those sort of carving to give it that sort of think antiquity kind of look. But that's basically the sort of idea and goal behind these, is just exploration. Have fun, potentially do some strange, wild stuff that seems weird, but it's playing with just those combinations of, I can take from the existing things and develop into some interesting things, playing with the shape, silhouette, and the combination of shapes, and trying to manipulate the scale of things. And just exploration is the broader thing. Explore, abstract things. This is not about, I need to do something realistic that would truly 100% work. I mean, there's some limits to how unreasonable things could be, but there's a lot of freedom in terms of you're playing with, how can I borrow from, again, things of antiquity or things of modern, and then give a play on if somebody had the insight on this and that they designed this in their time period, like how would they try to go about executing that. And it's a really good design exercise to challenge your thinking.